Tonight on the Pioneer Sideline, serves up. The volleyball team prepares for conference play this weekend. What their coach says about this year's recruiting class.
Compete for the three-peat. The women's soccer team has its eyes on a third straight conference title. What new starter could make all the difference?
And off to the races. One cross-country star is already exceeding expectations.
We're back. So let's go. It's time to come on down to the Pioneer Sideline. Good evening and welcome back to another season of the Pioneer Sideline, the longest running show on UView. I'm Josh Krupp.
And I'm Sarah Macklin. It's been a summer full of headlines in the sports world, especially at Point Park and in Pittsburgh.
That's right, Sarah. Let's get everyone caught up on what you may have missed since we last saw you. After a summer of waiting, Gabe Bouban was officially named the head men's basketball coach over the summer. Bouban was the interim head coach last season. He spent the previous 12 as the assistant coach to Bob Rager. Rager took a year off from coaching to recover from knee surgery. After a 27-year coaching career, Rager announced his retirement over the summer. Bouban was named the official head coach shortly after. The 2000 Point Park grad still holds the school's single-game record for points and three-pointers made in a single game. He becomes the fifth head men's basketball coach in program history. Point Park went 8-20 last year with a 5-12 River State's conference record.
Gabe Bouban was also the head men's and women's golf coach since 2009. Bouban helped reinstate the men's program after a 37-year absence and led the start of the women's team. He is stepping away from his golf duties to focus full-time on golf. His replacement, Graham Hoffman. The Bridgeville native comes to Point Park after working as an assistant golf professional at Hickory Heights Golf Club in Bridgeville since 2010. The men's golf team is ranked first in the River State's conference preseason coaches poll after winning the conference tournament last season. The women were picked sixth in this year's preseason poll after finishing in sixth at last year's conference tournament.
If there's one thing Pittsburgh knows how to do, it's throw a championship parade. And that's exactly what Pittsburgh did over the summer after the Pittsburgh Penguins once again claimed the Stanley Cup. The Cup made its way through Point Park's campus during the June parade. The parade route went through Grant Street and down the Boulevard of the Allies. The parade included confetti cannons, Penguins players, and bands that drew hundreds of thousands of people to celebrate. It was the Penguins' fifth Stanley Cup and the second in a row. The Penguins will raise the Stanley Cup banner and begin their quest for a third Stanley Cup on October 4th versus St. Louis. And Sarah, what a couple years for the Penguins.
Definitely.
Were you at the parade?
No, I wasn't able to go this year because the Pirates had a game that day.
Oh, okay.
And so it was either go in the 90-degree temperatures and then have to change in some random bathroom or go to work. So I went to work, but it's definitely exciting, and there's a lot of anticipation for this season.
Well, let's see if they can get a three-peat this season. And another team that is used to hardware, the Point Park volleyball team. They are no stranger to hardware. The Point Park Pioneers are looking once again to return to the NAIA National Tournament. Each of the last 3 years, they've been there, and they look to go back, like I said.
Yeah, they're also the team that we've seen the most from this year. Nobody has covered the volleyball team like our very own Mike Turk, who joins us now. Mike, how were the first couple weekends for the volleyball team?
Well, the Pioneers are definitely getting off to a good start this season. Last year, they started off 3-11 in their first 14 games. Already on better pace right now. They are 8-6 so far to start the 2017 campaign. Now, they only have 4 returning players. That's Morgan D'Angelo, Ashley Taylor, Julia Minovsky, and Madison Weldon. The Pioneers started off with a loss at Montreat College at 3-1, but they would later on, like last weekend, they came back and won and beat Montreat 3-0 in a sweep. Then they went to Milligan, Tennessee for a tournament where they won all 4 games. The story there, Ashley Taylor. She is leading the conference in kills so far this season. She has 210 kills so far in 14 matches. Last year at this point, she only had 134. She had 310 for the entire year, 210 right now, leads the conference. She is having a phenomenal year so far for the Pioneers. She also has 35 blocks. That's tied for first on the team with Jazzy Rozier, a freshman from Gateway, and she also leads the team in digs. So it's been a big start for Ashley Taylor, who has gained 2 Attacker of the Week awards from the River States Conference. Now, when you talk about a hitter like Ashley Taylor, you can't talk about the person feeding her the ball, and that is Julia Minoski. She has had a phenomenal start to the year. She is leading the River States Conference in assists as well. Now, there's a lot of questions. Emily Mangon, she was the setter for 3 years. How will the Pioneers react? Julia Minoski played a lot in the back row last season, but she took a year off from setting. A setter in high school, a state champion at Bishop Canevin. How would she react after a year's absence of setting the ball? Well, she's responded with 2 River States Conference Setter of the Week awards.
Mike, this is a recruiting class at Point Park that Mike Bruno has brought in that's huge. It's not a small recruiting class by far, and they had to replace some really important players from the last year. How is this recruiting class shaped up?
Well, they have 13 new players this year. It's very difficult to get into because they're from all over the place. You got some from North Carolina. You got 4 from California. They're from all over the place this year. Well, I should say there's only 12. There's one who tore her ACL in the preseason, so there's only 12 active. That's Haley English. She was one of the players from California. But there were a lot of questions. They lost a lot of key players last year. Shiloh Simonson was the River States Conference Player of the Year last year. Even though Ashley Taylor had better numbers than Shiloh Simonson, Simonson brought something that was just an all-around player. Defense, her serve was phenomenal. But in my opinion, with this recruiting class, you brought in an outside such as Meg Reinecke, who can play all the way around. You brought in 2 new middles, and it's a young team that's also mixed with experience.
What does Mike Bruno have to say about the team? He sat down with me a couple weeks ago, and we have a soundbite of him talking a little bit about this new recruiting class, this young team that they have.
Our team is maybe not new with intercollegiate athletes. We have a lot of transfers, but we're new together. So the process continues to get better, and we're hoping that this last weekend we prepare for conference, and it's a good foundation.
Point Park had a home game recently, and we got our first chance to see them, Mike, in the Student Center gym here on campus. The only team that plays on campus at Point Park, free admission.
Yeah, it's very exciting to finally watch all these new players come about. So let's watch some highlights, shall we? Now, here we go. Point Park Pioneers, you got the University of Pitt Johnstown visiting the Pioneers here. Now, University of Pitt Johnstown NCAA Division II team. There's your captains, Ashley Taylor and Morgan D'Angelo, meeting prior to this game. All right, first set, Pioneers up 7-2. There's a newcomer, Meg Reinecke from Sinclair Community College. She's a junior transfer. Now, fast forward later in the set, here's Ashley Taylor. Morgan D'Angelo protecting her hitter, and Ashley Taylor finishes. That's why she's leading the conference in kills. She sticks with it. Hitting error there. So we got 23-23. From California, Erica Gums, a junior, with the ace. Pioneers take the 24-23 advantage set point, but UPJ would get another one off a great kill. Here we go, right side, Ashley Taylor again. That's Julia Minoski's go-to girl, but a big kill from UPJ there. They tie it up 25-25. Pioneers not able to capitalize on another set point, and this one's going to hit Erica Gums right in the chest. Pioneers drop a heartbreaker in the first set. Second set, not too much good things to say about this. Big kill, or a block there, is from Erica Gum and Jazzy Rozier to start it out. 7-7 to start it out, but Morgan D'Angelo is going to watch 3 balls go right by her. Little late reaction there from the libero D'Angelo, the junior from Indiana. So we're going to fast forward to the third set after Pioneers dropped that one, 25-14. So facing an 0-2 deficit, Pioneers had to come back. Watch this, Savannah Dishman from North Carolina. The only thing she didn't do on that was set it to herself. Here you go, Meg Reinecke, another one. Watch this 2-ball coming right here. Beautifully ran by Megatron, Meg Reinecke herself. So Pioneers take their first set of the match. They're only down 2-1. Midway through set number 4. Here we go. Morgan D'Angelo's got the forearm set this one to Ashley Taylor on the right side. That's what she's been doing all season long. You're going to hear her name called out a lot this year. Pioneers up 1. Julia Minoski says psych and dumps it right on UPJ. 23-22. Pioneers trying to avoid what happened in the first set, and that's blowing a lead. It's been a story of have they been able to finish this year, and we've seen it a few times, especially at Rio Grande Tournament. 24-23. D'Angelo with the dig. Minoski's going to have to set it up. Free ball sent over, so it looked like Pioneers might give up the lead again, but a good touch there. Here's Minoski setting right side. Taylor, who's been putting them through the floor all game, she decides to tip it that time. Great knowledge from the veteran right there, the junior from North Hills High School. 25-23, Pioneers come back from the dead to tie it up 2-2. Now on to the fifth set. The Pioneers would get with it early. They draw first blood with a big kill on the right side. But the Pioneers' magic would eventually run out. As we go outside right there, Erica Gums, she tried keeping her team in it, but it just wouldn't be enough. 11-7 now. Another attack on the outside. D'Angelo just can't get her hands on it. And here is the match point. Pioneers try to keep it alive, but they will inevitably drop this one. 15-8. Ashley Taylor had a career high 25 kills in this match. That was her third match of the season with 20-plus kills. Meg Reineke had 12 kills on the game, and Erica Gums had 10.
Mike, we'll wrap it up with this great highlights. 3-1 weekend over the weekend at Shawnee State. So the team has bounced back. They're, what, 8-6 now?
They are 8-6, yes.
What is your prediction for this team going forward? Where are they going to go this year?
Well, the chemistry is starting to come along, guys. It's looking really good. A little shaky to start out the year. Even though they did start 4-1, they saw a losing streak there just for a little bit. But honestly, the team last year was very experienced with playing together. This team is going to get to that level. 15-1 the team went in conference play last year. They finished 20-15 after starting 3-11. So the Pioneers already off to an 8-6 start. I think this is going to be a very good team that can win the conference this year.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Your volleyball coverage has been outstanding so far, and we can't wait to see what you give us the rest of this season. Coming up the rest of the episode here, coming up next, what athlete is already running away with awards?
And the women's soccer team looks to three-peat as conference champions. How they've fared so far in their three-peat campaign.
Don't go anywhere. That's next on the Pioneer Sideline.
What would you do to create something that could survive 1,000 years? You'd start with a formula, head to the lab, and forge it with fire. Just imagine everything it could do. It could leak pollutants into the soil and water, or it could conserve energy, cut CO2 emissions, and reduce raw material. Recycling is more than cutting waste. Recycling is about the legacy you want to leave. Why on earth would you want to do anything else? Recycle. Don't throw away our chance at survival.
UView Television is live here at the Center for Media Innovation with a very exclusive interview with Point Park's Black Diamond, our school mascot. We're taking questions on our social media at UView Television.
Our first question came in from @PointParkU Black Diamond. They want to know, what is one thing you love about Point Park?
UView.
I knew it.
UView's the best.
It is. All right, Alex, you want to read our next question?
Okay, we have another question from Point Park Cab. They're asking, when is the next time you're going to make a surprise appearance at their next event?
He's being coy. Looks like we're going to have to show up.
Yeah,
to
I guess we'll have to see.
All right, that's all we have for right now, but you can submit your own questions at UView Television, and we might read one of yours after the break.
Welcome back. The women's soccer team won its first conference championship 2 years ago, and last season they repeated as champions.
It's hard enough to repeat as champions, but can the women's soccer team three-peat? Our women's soccer reporter Allison Schubert joins us now in her Pioneer Sideline debut. So Allison, first of all, welcome to the Sideline. Second of all, this women's soccer team, how do they look so far this season? They've only had a few games, but where do they stand as it is right now?
Thanks, Josh. So right now, the women's soccer team is 0-3 and have been unable to tally a point in any of their 3 games. But that doesn't mean that they're out of it just yet. Last year, they started the season 2-5-2 until they got into conference play, which doesn't start for these Pioneers until September 28th at Asbury University. So I've been able to talk to some of the players, I've talked to the coach, and they're pretty optimistic about what they can do this year.
And they have a goalie this year that is not the goalie that they had last year, is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Rebecca Cohen started last year, but she is redshirting this year because of an ACL surgery that she had over the summer. So sophomore Ashton Webb has found herself stepping up to the plate, and she's been starting in the past 3 games. And despite the scores, head coach Maggie Kuhn is looking to her in a very optimistic way, and she's very happy with what she's been able to do in the 3 games so far.
Now, you said, Allison, despite the slow start, the team and the coaching staff is optimistic. How far do you think this team will go this year?
You know, it doesn't look like they'll be able to three-peat this year, but they might be able to because, like I said, they started out pretty rough last year, and this year, looking forward, they're very optimistic. And, you know, they might not have the best record so far, but they really need to find that cohesiveness. And the players that I've talked to so far have been talking about their lack of unity because 11 players are freshmen or transfers. So we've got a lot of new faces, but hopefully they can find that cohesiveness and look for it. And you know, I think they can three-peat this year if they're able to find that unity and are able to start offensively.
And this season is nothing different than we've seen in the past, Sarah. The team always has sluggish starts because they play really difficult teams. I mean, the team they opened against won the national championship 2 years ago, was there last year. It's a tough road ahead. Thank you so much, Allison, but don't read too much, everybody, into these first few games, as she said.
They always struggle at the beginning, struggle on the road, so.
Exactly, and they might three-peat. Thanks, Allison. Let's stick with soccer, shall we? On the men's side of things, the men started off slow as well.
Exactly. They started off struggling, and then they've won 2 games in a row. Started off 0-2, won the last 2 games, and the last 2 games have been shutouts for them. So they're looking strong defensively, which I know a lot of people were worried about because they lost Paul Carr, and that was one of their solid defensemen in the back between him and Josh Williams. But Josh Williams returns, and they have a couple new people on defense that their defense is looking solid. So it's just, can they score? And that's what they didn't do in the first 2 games.
Exactly. And Josh Williams sat out the first couple of games with suspension. He had the couple red cards, the red card at the end of the season last year. Manuel Piger, not back in goal this season for the Pioneers, so they had to bring back in a couple transfers. Piger last year as a freshman was outstanding.
Exactly.
This season we're starting with Juan Zamoza in those first couple of games, and he did okay. They were very difficult teams. Florida National at home rolled over Point Park, and they're a solid squad. So Zamoza takes the first 2 games. The last 2 games at home, those 2 shutouts, Ryan Daniels, he was a player of the year at his former school, and he really has stepped up this season for the men's soccer team. And as you said, they're currently 2-2. Last night, Monday night, very impressive performance from them.
Very impressive, 6-0. I mean, like I said earlier, in the first 2 games, they were really struggling offensively. They had maybe 5 to 8 shots on goal in each of those games. So they were, shots and very little shots on goal. But they stepped up in these last 2 games. They won yesterday. They had 16 shots on goal, 26 shots in total. So the offense finally got going. Alan Ramos had 2 goals, and he's their key to that offense. So if he gets going, there's no stopping them.
Exactly, but the thing that could stop them is this conference. Rio Grande is at the top of the conference and has been for the last 2 years. The national champions from 2 years ago ended last season in the national championship, not with the trophy though, and West Virginia Tech. Surprisingly, at the end of last season, they finished with a number 6 ranking, and then all of a sudden we get into this season, it ranked 5th in the top 25 poll. They are 0-3-1 so far. They have really struggled against the tough non-conference schedule they have. They've fallen out of the top 25 poll, but like Allison said earlier, these first few games are just to test
getting their
the
feet
waters.
wet.
Exactly.
They still figuring out how they switched to Daniels in goal, so they're still trying to figure things out, trying to fill those missing pieces.
And Daniels and Somoza might mix and might go back and forth this season. We'll see how they play out, but this conference is tough and arguably one of the toughest in the NAIA.
And I mean, if I could give one thing to Point Park credit, is they do play tough. They play aggressive, almost to a point where it's too aggressive. I mean, Roberta Whitley already has, I believe, 4 yellow cards in 4 games.
Discipline was a problem
so
last
discipline
year.
and self-control is a huge problem. So it's one thing to be aggressive, which they need in this tough conference, but it's another thing they need to gain that self-control, and he needs to be a leader.
Well, we'll see how far this team can go this season with all the different variables in play and with this tough conference. Well, coming up, what Point Park teams are off to the fastest start in their histories?
And will the Steelers contend for the big game this year? We'll debate coming up.
I shouldn't have to pay to walk down the street. Pay with my comfort, my freedom, my peace. Always on guard, on edge, off limits. Don't follow me, don't touch me, don't treat me like I'm yours. I don't need your whistles, your comments, your eyes. I already know I'm a prize. My confidence isn't for sale. Respect me, don't inspect me.
And when people ask us who can join UView, the answer really is anybody, and we mean anybody. Any major, any experience level. Some people, have a lot of experience coming out of high school, and others don't know how to really sit on a couch properly, and that's okay. We're here just to give you the chance to learn and have fun and prepare yourself for the real world. College, after all, it's all about trying new things.
Welcome back. The men's and women's cross-country teams wasted no time getting off to the races this year.
The teams have competed twice so far this year and have posted dramatically improved times from just 1 year ago.
Specifically, Anna Shields.
Anna Shields,
She's
potential Point Park Athletic
unstoppable.
Hall of Famer whenever she gets out of here. An amazing story. Listen, she came out 2 weeks ago and posted a time that last year at Nationals would have been the 4th or 5th best time in the country. It was the same exact course. These courses that they've run so far are the same ones that they ran at the beginning of the season last year. And whatever the team is doing, led by Anna Shields on the women's side, every single one of them has improved dramatically. They have a ton of new recruits. Kelly Parsley is back for another year at the helm of this team, and
his 4th year coaching.
They have been just absolutely outstanding, and possibly if the best team here at Point Park. And that's Anna Shields carrying the women's side. What about the men?
Yeah, the men's, they have 14 new recruits this year, so they're predicted to finish second in the conference, and they've got 14 returnees plus 2 return transfers. So that's huge because they're returning 2 transfers that are pretty good in Torres and Connor Wright. So
Eric Torres, my freshman year, was outstanding. And he was like, whenever he came and was running on the cross-country course his freshman year, we're like, this is the second coming. The kid was outstanding.
He finished second at the 2014 KIC.
I love it. Dropping stats. Eric Torres is back this year, and he's not even the fastest on the team either.
No.
So, and when you bring back a kid that's that talented to go along with Sean Hilverding, both cross-country teams so far are looking outstanding. And while the cross-country runners aim to get in the national spotlight this year, looking to go to Vancouver, Washington for nationals, our Megan Masiosi is standing by with the latest sports news making national headlines already. Megan?
The NFL kicked off its season last Thursday in Foxborough between the defending Super Bowl champs, the New England Patriots, and the Kansas City Chiefs. The game was tight in the first half, but after halftime, the Chiefs took it to another level. They would go on to score 21 unanswered points on the Patriots defense, which allowed the fewest amount of points in the 2016 season. The big star of this game was rookie running back Kareem Hunt, who bounced back after his fumble loss in the first quarter to end the game with 246 total yards and 3 touchdowns. As for the rest of the NFL teams, they played their season openers Sunday and Monday, except for 2. Due to Hurricane Irma, the NFL announced that the Miami Dolphins game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Sunday was postponed until Week 11, when both teams are scheduled to be on a bye week. As the NFL starts their regular season, the MLB's is coming to a close. With only 3 weeks left of the season, several teams are fighting for a postseason spot in the In the National League, the 3 division leaders are the Washington Nationals, Chicago Cubs, and the LA Dodgers, with the Arizona Diamondbacks and Colorado Rockies in the wild card spots. But these spots are not a lock. The Milwaukee Brewers and St. Louis Cardinals are both only 3 games behind the Rockies, with less than 20 games left to play. As for the American League, well, that one's even closer. The 3 division leaders are the Boston Red Sox, Cleveland Indians, and Houston Astros, and the 2 wildcard spots are currently held by the New York Yankees and Minnesota Twins. Now here's where things get interesting. There are 6 teams that are 4 or less games behind both the Yankees and the Twins. Half of those teams are tied in the standings at 71 wins with less than 3 weeks to play for a spot in the playoffs. Even more interesting than that, all the remaining teams have at least 1 series with each other in these final weeks. The AL will be the league to watch in the final week of September.
Thanks, Megan. We'll certainly keep Eye on those playoff races. And something else we're keeping an eye on this year, our fantasy football team. Sarah?
Yes, once again, our fantasy football league is back, and it is competitive as ever. There's 8 of us this year rather than 10, and already in week 1, it's bitter back and forth. There's trash talking, there's everything. I know Kareem Hunt did pretty well for me. Megan mentioned him. So if you look up, you could see the standings. A couple teams winning this week. I won this week, I believe.
Yeah, I came away with a big win. Lizzie with a big win. Allison Schubert with a big win, man.
So a couple new people coming up with big wins here.
And Nikki Kasiski, Nikki K, never
Watch
played
out for
fantasy
him.
football.
He's
but
got
he
a
did
good
lose
team.
week 1, has a good team, but he sat them all on the bench last
Gotta
week.
pay a little more attention.
Let's see how he does moving forward. Well, moving forward with this show, we've seen 1 week of football already, and it's time to jump to dramatic conclusions.
Specifically about the Steelers. Will they contend for the Super Bowl? The case of the week is next.
One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. 2 can be as bad as 1. It's the loneliest number since the number 1.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. I'm Josh Krupp alongside Jess Paterchak.
Take a look at the 5-day forecast.
You might have already burned your bracket, ripped it up, or put it through a paper shredder by now.
British Prime Minister Theresa May officially triggered Article 50 on Tuesday.
The World Baseball Classic has concluded with Team USA winning its first title in 4 WBC tournaments.
And that is your news tonight. With Royce Jones, I'm Danis Marrero. Have a great night.
Back after 1 week of football is in the books, we all like to think we know exactly how the season will play out now, right?
But we also know that there's no way we're right.
So let's hear 2 of our reporters put that analysis to the test. It's time for the first Embrace Debate segment of the year. It's the case of the week, and it's Megan Masiosi and Mike Turk here at the desk. The question this week, are the Steelers a serious Super Bowl contender this year? We'll start with Megan. Yes or no, in 1 sentence, why?
No, because after what I watched on Sunday versus the Cleveland Browns, absolutely not.
No, there's just too much talent in the AFC. I don't think they'll get out of the AFC alone.
How far do they go then?
I'm going to say they only get in as a wild card.
I agree. I think they get in as a wild card, win that first game, but lose to someone like Kansas City or Oakland.
Who do you think is winning the division?
Ooh, you know what? That's a tough question. Teeter-totter on that. I'm gonna say the Baltimore Ravens. Actually, I like the defense. I like going with the defense on this one.
I actually agree with him because I have Jeremy Maclin in my league, and he's been killing it for them this year too. So I mean, I know Woodhead just went out, but I'm going with the Ravens to win the division.
Okay, let's throw a curveball in here since we're agreeing on everything. Who is going to be in the Super Bowl? Who are your Super Bowl picks? Making you think on the fly.
Putting you on the spot.
Oh yeah, that's really tough to think about. I definitely like the Green Bay Packers out of the NFC if we're talking that. AFC, ooh, that's a toss. I don't think the New England Patriots are going to go back this year. I really liked what I saw from Kansas City the other day. They have a lot of weapons there. So you know what? I'm going to say Kansas City right now.
Okay.
I'm in the NFC. I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks right now, just because that defense has been looking really good. And the AFC, it's a toss-up really, but I could see the Oakland Raiders actually.
Oh,
I
Rob
know.
Gomez is
Rob's
somewhere
gonna
around.
love
this is
that.
great.
Our
Loving
technical
this.
director.
I totally forgot Eric Berry's out for the year.
That's why I did not pick
But yeah, that's really tough for me to pick
Yeah,
now.
with
I'll
Achilles.
stick with them.
Who's your Steelers MVP?
Steelers MVP, Antonio Brown. He's the only one that can catch a ball right now.
I'm going to go with Big Ben if he can stay healthy. He's kind of slowly digressed the past few years, though, but they still can't win without
Yeah, I
him.
got to watch with those interceptions, though. That's been his problem the past
Yes,
couple
he's
years.
been going downhill.
I won't lie, I was kind of hoping for one of you to say yes, they're a Super Bowl contender, the other to say no, to get a fierce debate. Maybe we'll get a fierce debate in the coming weeks. Thank you all both for your interesting points. We'll see, maybe if the Steelers go to the Super Bowl, we can have a party here on Sideline to cover it. But that's all the time we have for this week.
Make sure you tune in next week at the same Pioneer time.
The same Pioneer channel.
And the same Pioneer Sideline.